Alright, the perfect Scream game is not possible. In these videos, we're just aiming for a pretty good game. So if you click because of that, you've been clickbaited, bamboozled.
We've been smeckledorfed!
That's not even a word and I agree with you!
But before I tell you about my hypothetical Scream game, we need to talk about your hypothetical Scream game. I feel like if you're watching this video, you've probably at least thought about a Scream game before, and your idea is most likely a ripoff of one of two games that already exist, Among Us or Dead by Daylight. Obviously, I want you to give my game idea a fair chance, so I want to explain why I chose to avoid those type of games first and then give you my idea. Let's start with Among Us. Among Us is a social deduction game. A social deduction game, at its core, is basically a Scream plot. You have a group of people, usually two of them are killers in disguise, and you gotta figure out who. That's basically Scream, and that's basically Among Us. We're all done here, folks. The game finished itself. But in Among Us, the developers understand that the killers need opportunity, so there are actually two ways for survivors to win. Either figure out the killers early, or complete your tasks. These tasks are designed to artificially create a reason for players to separate themselves constantly to allow the killers the opportunity to kill the survivors. But the issue with the Scream version of Among Us is that a Scream film has never actually been solved by social deduction. No killers have ever been sussed out and defeated early in the films, obviously because that would be anticlimactic. Every Scream film leads to a reveal at a house party, except the second and sixth films, which both end in a theater. Which means that a house party or a theater are going to be your natural settings for a Scream game. And in those settings, there's no logical reason for the survivors to split up if they want to win. What could this hypothetical Scream Among Us game do to artificially create opportunity for the killers? Do you really expect a list of things to do at a house party? Task 1, go get a beer from the basement. Task 2, eat some nachos in the kitchen. Task 3, try to flirt with Barbara. I don't really see anything the killers could do to force the survivors to split up other than sabotaging the lights and hoping to kill someone in the dark. But then there's the other question. Even if you could make them split up for some random reason, how do you avoid instantly finding out who the killers are? The thing that makes Among Us special is that they use very simple characters. It's just little dudes with backpacks and you choose a color. So you have to remember very simple things that could easily be forgotten or mistaken. Did you see blue and orange run over there? Or was it actually blue and yellow? You better remember, because any wrong answer will make you look sus. But if the characters in a Scream game look like regular teenagers, it becomes a lot easier to say, oh, I know for a fact I saw Terry walk over there with Laura, and then bam, she was dead. So in this game, the survivors have nothing to do except sit there and wait to be attacked, and unless they're blind, they're naturally going to notice any sus behavior from the killers. And because my goal is to capture the spirit of the film while being as original as possible, I just don't see Among Us as being the way to go. Now let's talk about Dead by Daylight. I understand why a lot of people think this is what a Scream game should be, because technically, Ghostface is already in Dead by Daylight. So just take Dead by Daylight, add a bunch of Scream fan service, and collect your easy money, right? But here's the thing, there already was a game that did that, and what killed that game is the same thing that would kill this game times 10. That game was Friday the 13th. The Friday the 13th game was abandoned because the original writer of the first film, Victor Miller, was fighting for the rights to his script. Long story short, he won that lawsuit domestically, but that lawsuit is what killed the game. And the Scream franchise has a similar issue. The people who own the costume and the people who own the films are not the same company. The character Ghostface is owned by Easter Unlimited, also known as Fun World. They love a good Ghostface collaboration, so you can easily see Ghostface merchandise everywhere. But have you ever noticed, you've never seen any official action figure or pop Funko of Billy and Stu or Sidney Prescott? That's because the people who own the films do not play ball like Fun World does. Why? I don't know. Maybe the contracts over the years have made licensing too expensive or too confusing to be worth the effort. Or maybe some film executive got a wedgie by someone wearing a Billy Loomis cosplay. Either way, the point is, this rule has not changed. Even after Spyglass Media got the rights and made Scream 5 and 6, we still haven't gotten any officially licensed characters from the films. So because of this, I just don't think a Scream Dead by Daylight is possible. The Scream dev team would be fighting the world's hardest battle just to add one of the characters. I can't imagine what they would have to do to get a group of them. But even if that miracle did happen, the Friday the 13th game was generally regarded as a worse and less balanced version of Dead by Daylight. So from a gamer perspective, most people just preferred playing Dead by Daylight. What carried the game was the massive amounts of fan service that it provided adjacent fans. Scream wouldn't really have that same level of luxury because Ghostface looks the same and generally uses the same weapon in every film. Yes, there are differences in the mask, but would you pay $60 to $70 for 6 base options of the same character but the mask is slightly longer or has slightly bigger eyes? Obviously, you could do all those little details for fans, but at the end of the day, most people just see the same black cloak and white mask. So I don't think there's really any incentive for a dev team to go through all the effort of trying to copy Dead by Daylight. Okay, now that I've laid out some issues that I think a Scream game would run into, let's talk about my game and why I think it could be made that would be a relatively unique gaming experience that wouldn't even require the film licensing while also keeping with the spirit of those films. The core concept of the video game I'm pitching is all about playing cards.
Guys! No, wait, listen, please, there's a good...
To make it easier to explain the game, I think the best thing to do would be to separate the survivors and the killers' gameplay and talk about the objectives from the perspective of each. For a survivor player, the vibe is meant to be like a party game where everyone is able to relax and talk about the choices they're making to protect themselves from the upcoming attack or event. But here's the thing, no one actually knows what card each player is actually selecting for their turn, so you could be getting bluffed by a killer pretending to be good, or by another player playing selfishly. For example, a survivor might say they're playing a card that's going to improve their ability to dodge an attack this round. You heard that, but you also know that the killers heard that. So now you know that you might become the target this round since you just became the easier target to attack. So what do? Do you play a card that also improves your chances of dodging? Or do you secretly play a different card that removes the killer's ability to target you this round? If you do happen to get picked and die, you can still help your friend survive by playing extra cards from beyond the grave. But if you survive long enough to reach the finale, you'll potentially have earned some hidden player effects depending on the choices you made to get there safely. That's the basic summary of playing as a survivor. Now let's talk about playing as the killers. The killers will have a slight upper hand at all times. They know who the other killer is and they know each other's cards, and each killer can suggest which survivor to attack and which card should be played this round. But just like the survivors, the killers don't know if the other killer actually selected the card they said they would. Each choice the killers make will alter the cards and bonuses each of them will receive throughout the game. But unlike the survivors, many of these decisions are shown to the killers ahead of time, so they can plan accordingly as they earn them. And that's basically the explanation of what to expect gameplay-wise from the killers. So now let's talk about some of these extra details that I feel make it uniquely Scream. When you start a new game, the killers are already presented 2 options. They can choose specifically who the opening attack victim will be, or they can let fate decide that at random. This decision will immediately impact the cards available to the killers for the rest of the game. If they choose the victim for the opening scene, their cards will become more strategic and focus on increasing the success and tension of this opening kill. But if they let fate decide, their cards will become less focused on guaranteeing the kill and focus more on the brutality and destruction of the opening attack. And that is important to this game, because when people play video games, they usually want to win the game. But Ghostface dies every time in the films. So to keep this kind of vibe for the game, Ghostface needs to die way more than he ever wins. So how do you create a scenario where a player is okay with dying most of the time? Well, one way is by making their win condition based more on style points instead of survival points. That way, the more kills, chase scenes, and phone calls you pull off, the more points you get to level up and unlock new cosmetics or something. So you might have died to the final girl, but the movie you made along the way was iconic. And when I say you made a movie, I mean it. After the killers and survivors pick and plan their strategies for each round, the game will calculate the scenario, and then every player is then shown an in-game cutscene of the killers and their chosen victim. Each cutscene is decided and altered based on the cards chosen that round, so you and your friends will literally be making your own unique Scream film as the game is played. Also, let's talk about those hidden and non-hidden player effects I mentioned earlier. As you play more rounds and your choices have been made, the game will start to hand out negative and positive effects to the players. If a survivor plays a lot of smart but selfish survival cards, they might receive a hidden film geek bonus that increases the chance that any attack in the final rounds will be more survivable, but it also decreases their card's ability to help another player avoid death. You'll only know what bonuses you received when the game is over. The only survivor effect that isn't always hidden is the final girl/boy bonus. This is secretly given after the opening scene based on the survivor's choices in the opening, and it isn't revealed until the finale. but it can be revealed early if the secretly chosen player is attacked too early and would have died as a result. And this bonus is basically just a get out of jail free card for someone who would have gotten killed really early in the game. You can think of it as the Sydney or Sam get attacked early scene from the movies. The killer's effects and bonuses are usually directly shown to them. If you play smart and selfish, you might get the mastermind bonus that secretly increases the effects of your own cards, but also decreases your partner's. If you play reckless and brutal, you might get the peer pressure bonus that lets you tank more damage. Each bonus is slightly modeled after popular characters or tropes from the franchise, so if you want to be the next Jill, maybe there's even a way to betray your partner near the end. It's up to the killers to decide what story they want to tell, so, well, and that's my idea for a Scream video game. Also, thanks to my amazing luck and the time it took to finally complete this video, Funko announced that they're making a Scream board game that also involves using cards and actually features phone calls from Ghostface, so I just instantly became a Walmart off-brand version. I don't know if it's good or not because I don't think they've released any info on how exactly it functions. But anyways, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe or I'll gut you like a fish.